About 3 months had passed when the now 4 companions reached Coba. In Britain, where he had spent most of his time on Earth, the trees would already show bright colors. Not like the tropical jungle he was standing in now, where the evergreen plants made one believe winter was a myth. Once they had been near Mexico, Marielies could tell where they had to go. Weather and time had been unkind to the ancient Aztec city in front of them. Parts of the stony structures had been broken off, and cracks crisscrossed the stairs. He produced a pack of cigarettes from his pocket and offered one to Nate. He took a moment to look at what once was part of a proud civilization. "Which one is the temple?" Dean asked in an awestruck tone as he examined the ancient structures. Marielies passed Nathaniel the lighter before answering. "Somewhere close to the center, I might suppose." They entered the ruins in a casual stroll. The entire structure was made of stone and adorned with symmetric geometric designs and pictures of strange creatures. Some of those creatures had the head of a jaguar, eagle, or dragon. The bodies varied from long and slender to short and muscular. Hooked claws and sharp teeth made the creatures look even more intimidating. Marielies had to stop several times when one of his 3 companions remained still to get a closer look. Sometimes the creatures were depicted fighting with warriors. Other times the creature would surround houses in a protecting stance or be worshipped by bowing humans. Even Nathaniel was invested, asking about the meaning here and there. Dean gladly answered as best as possible with what he knew from books. It seemed to the demon that the human had found the bright side to their rather problematic situation. After leaving behind the smaller structures that once had served as houses, they crossed a large yard. A big square pyramid towered in front of them. The walls showed even more artful decoration, and dozens of stairs led up to the top, where a small door seemed to lead into the building. "That must be the temple," Marielies said. "Are you sure?" Dean asked. "Your memories are not exactly from yesterday." Sharing Dean's opinion, the demon looked closely at the engravings on the walls. "There," he said, pointing at a picture of a winged serpent to the left. "That's Quetzalcoatl, as you know, god of life, death, water, air, practically the father of the Aztec race. Who's the man holding the disc?" Dean gestured at the picture at the opposite side, facing the serpent. "I'm pretty sure this is Xiotecutli, god of time." Aztecs used a complex system of calendars engraved on stone discs. They ascended the stairs with the sun burning on their backs. 2 statues stood next to the entrance. The head of a feathered serpent protruded from the wall to the left, and the god of time stood to the right. Inside the temple ruled darkness. Marielies didn't have to worry, for he saw just fine, but Dean ignited a small flame on the palm of his hand, illuminating the room enough for the others to walk without stumbling. The room was plain in its furnishings. At the back of it stood an altar with 2 empty bowls placed on it. Pictures decorated the walls, which were overgrown with something that looked like roots or ranks. Finding an old torch, Dean managed to light it, passing it to Nathaniel. "I don't know about you, Marielies, but I don't see anything resembling a clock," the young man whispered, as if he didn't want to disturb whatever slept in the ruins. Marielies looked around. The ceiling was high and completely covered in thick brown ranking weeds. "That's because we are not there yet," Marielies answered, going down on one knee to examine 2 footprints in the center of the room. "I don't reckon I like this, Marielies. I ain't very educated, but I know how it look when people kill each other." Nathaniel spoke while looking at the ritual pictured on the walls. "It's not just killing, Nate," Dean spoke with a disgusted undertone. "It's a sacrifice." "Yes," Marielies turned to the altar, "and they won't let us pass without performing one." "You can't be serious," Nathaniel uttered with an expression of utter disbelief. Those footprints are not traces, they are the symbol for passing time, and the walls show us the ritual with blood. He looked at the wall above the altar where something like a heart and a drop of blood had been drawn with red color. Or at least he hoped the faded drawing would be color. He didn't stand for rituals involving grotesque killing. He never did, even in his darkest times. Those stomach-churning ideas didn't come from demons. He may have encouraged wickedness long ago, but the resulting heart-stopping evil came right from the human mind on its own. If we want to open that door leading us down, then we have to offer a heart. No one spoke when Marylice turned around. They just stared at him with wide eyes. You don't seriously suggest? Melissa started, stupefied, but stopped as the demon raised his hands defensively. All I need is your knife. Reluctantly, the woman gave him the knife, which he handed Dean. Now what? Dean asked, playing the fool. 2 bowls, one for the heart and one for the priest's blood. But I am no priest. The Aztec priests were men with special connection to the gods. In other words, occultists. Dean finished the thought. The young man extinguished his flame and went to the altar to cut his palm, letting some drops of blood fall into the bowl. A hissing sound followed as the symbol above the bowl started to glow. Marylice reached out for the knife, but Dean drew back. What now? He asked in a tone that demanded a straight answer. I am going to need your knife, Dean, because I can't use my sword. What's different about your sword? My sword was forged below. I took it when I left. It would kill me. Marylice didn't know if Dean trusted or believed him, but he handed over the knife. Marylice took a deep breath. Even if he healed, he still felt the pain when a wound was inflicted. He took off his coat, unbuttoned the brown vest and wine-red shirt, and placed the tip of the knife on his chest next to the heart. Another hand gripped his arm before he could continue. Don't you think about it. Nathaniel's eyes met his own with a firm stare. Nathaniel, I'm not going to die. You have to trust me. I'm damn sure cutting out your heart will make you very dead. The demon cast Dean an apologetic glance, which the young man answered by slightly tilting his head. Turning back to the cowboy, he said, I am a demon. I will be dead for a moment, but I won't stay that way. The sacrifice needs to be human. You just told me you ain't human, Nathaniel exclaimed, alarmed at the sudden revelation. I'm close enough, it should work. Marylice dismissed the argument as the other man backed away, his eyes fixed on the demon. Melissa laid her hand on his shoulder, trying to calm him. Whatever Nathaniel must have felt right then, Marylice was sure it wasn't a comfortable sensation. He felt a bit sorry for his friend, who seemed like he would lose his mind any second. He turned back to Dean and the altar. Once it's out, you have to place it on the altar. Why me? Because you are the priest. You are asking me to kill you. Distress had sneaked itself into Dean's voice. As if I would let you kill me. Marylice grinned in his usual way before severing his heart from the surrounding flesh with 3 clean cuts. He didn't know if he managed to give it to Dean or if he just fell backwards still holding it. The last thing he remembered beside the immense pain was his vision turning blurry and then black. A gasp for fresh air was the first thing he did after dying. Looking down at his body, he saw how a new beating heart was just disappearing under new skin. An echo of the pain still throbbed in his head as he stared at the ceiling for a moment, letting out a deep sigh. Melissa approached him with a worried look on her face. How are you? I just remembered the last time my heart was cut out. You did this before. Dean just turned away from the altar where the second symbol now glowed. I tried to stop the endless slaughter. cutting out the hearts of living people, but the Aztecs didn't listen. Thought me to be an emissary of evil, trying to tempt them to turn away from their gods. They did have a point, Dean retorted half-jokingly. Marilyes only laughed awkwardly with mixed feelings. They sacrificed me, and upon waking up I made a run for it. I thought you wanted to stop them. Melissa sounded a bit disappointed. Marilyes paused. I might have tipped off the Spanish a few times until they discovered Mexico. He felt abashed as the couple's expressions turned grave. You know what the Spanish did? Dean sounded like a judge to Marilyes. He got up and donned his coat while turning away from them. The familiar queasy feeling festered in his stomach like it had so often in the past. I know what you think of me. I am evil after all. I tried to help and just made it worse. The sensation of Dean's hand clapping his shoulder made him look at them again. I've traveled with you for quite some time now. It takes more than a dark past to make me abandon you. Marilyes smiled with uncertainty. His friend's compassion made him feel less alone. I hope you're right about that. The sound of two rocks scraping against each other made him turn his attention back to the task at hand. An entrance revealing stairs downwards had opened in front of the footprints. The hole was just big enough for a human to fit through. Marilyes stepped in front of the hole in the ground when he looked at Nathaniel. Seemingly recovered from the revelation, the American looked more relaxed, yet the demon could see the mistrust in the grey eyes. Have I given you any reason to fear me? Nathaniel pondered for a moment. Marilyes would not stop the man from leaving should he want to, yet the demon had to admit he was starting to enjoy the company of his mortal associates. I've seen men commit acts worthy of a demon's work, and a demon commit acts only humans should be capable of. Nathaniel looked like someone trying to solve a mystery. I guess the Lord really do work in mysterious ways. A grin spread upon the conclusion. You still cling to that? Marilyes was rattled by the man's attitude. I'm a bloody demon. I seen war, fella. How much worse can a demon be? I'm going to meet your kind one way or the other, once it's time to pay up. He winked with the tongue click. Marilyes just had to laugh at how nonchalantly the man looked at his fate. All right, mate. I prepared a special room just for you in hell. Now Nathaniel started to join in with a soft chuckle. I don't mind spending eternal damnation with a friend. It felt as if they walked forever when they descended the stairs. Cold, dry air filled the hidden path, and the black walls were bare and smooth. Marilyes was certain they had just walked all the way down to ground level again, if not even below it, only inside of the building. The tunnel continued to the left and right without any markings. Also did the tunnel in front of them seem to expand ahead, whereas the stairs had been narrow with a deep ceiling. The hallways in front of them seemed big enough for a train to fit through. Left or right? The demon asked, at a loss to choose one direction. We could flip a coin. Nathaniel answered. His tone sounded just as puzzled. Marilyes liked the idea and fished an ancient coin from his inside pocket. Heads left, tails right. What do you put your money on? He asked with a delighted smile. They had been serious for far too long. Dean just shook his head in a familiar way that told Marilyes how unbelievably childish he could be, whilst Melissa just looked at them like a stern parent. Gambling is a sin. I'm an employee of hell. Temptation is kind of my job description. He shrugged. $5 to you if we go left. Nathaniel finally answered, his eyes glinting with the joy of venture. Make it 10, otherwise it's no fun. Marilyes said upon throwing the shiny object. He caught it with one hand and covered it with the other before looking. It showed the head of one of Rome's emperors. "You sure you ain't cheatin'?" "I don't have to. Time to pay up." "You are a godforsaken greedy bastard," Nate said in a playful manner as he handed over the money. "Can't object to that," Merrill countered smugly. After the first choice, the path just continued without splitting up again. It twisted and turned a few times before it opened into a cavern with two entrances. A pedestal made of white stone stood in the middle, flanked by two stone statues. Both had the body and tail of a wolf. One had a jaguar's head and paws with long claws, whilst the other had the head of an eagle and 4 taloned feet. An icy blue light illuminated the room from seemingly nowhere. Upon approaching the pedestal, they saw a small watch not unlike the kind wealthy people in London carried in their pockets. There was nothing special about it. Casing and chain were made out of pure gold, which looked worn as if it had been used excessively. "It doesn't look like anything the Aztecs made," Dean wondered in a tone which indicated he had expected more. "They didn't make it. They just found it, deeming it to be made by the gods once they discovered its power." "What power?" "You can take a look outside." Merrill snatched the watch from the pedestal and gave it to Dean before they turned to go. He was eager to leave this place, which somehow made his skin itch. "You hear that?" Nathaniel asked behind Merrill on their way back. "It almost sounded like someone's walking on pebbles." When a deafening roar came from the room they just left, Merrill knew what had made him uncomfortable. A look back confirmed his suspicions. Bloody hell, now I know why the tunnels are that large. 4 icy blue glowing orbs stared at them intensely as the stone statues turned into living creatures. "Merrill, any suggestions?" Dean asked without moving. "I don't know about you, but I fancy a run." Merrill regretted the decision as soon as he had started running. The two beasts were much faster than them. Their claws scraped against the smooth stone as the creatures followed, uttering a screech now and then which would shake any mortal to the core. Just as they rounded one of the many corners of the winding tunnel, the eagle-headed creature jumped and crashed into the black wall. A glance behind told Merrill that it just shook its head and charged at them once again, the blue eyes glowing with the bliss of a hunter chasing its prey. They were still far from the stairs leading them to the surface. Merrill knew they wouldn't make it without dying or fight, or very probably both, and they couldn't risk the collapse of the tunnel by using magic. If Merrill just wouldn't be so awfully weak, he could just get rid of those two creatures by snapping his fingers. He heard Nathaniel shoot at the creatures, but he doubted a simple cold to be the remedy for their problem. "Don't you have anything in your pockets?" he called to the Englishman next to him. "No?" Dean retorted as his hands instinctively searched the trenchcoat's pockets. "You humans are so useless sometimes. You are the demon. Do something." "I can't fight stone statues." "The watch, Dean," Melissa said, ignoring her shortage of breath. "Use the watch." In one single motion, Dean turned around and opened the worn clock watch in his hand. A soft shockwave emanated from the small instrument. Instantaneously, the creatures stood like frozen while the 4 travelers were hurled to the ground. For a moment, all of them just caught their breath and looked at their ferocious hunters. Nathaniel was the first to find his voice. Whistling under his breath, he poked the beast with his colt. "Those ain't stone no more. They's just still. Time must have stopped for them, though I don't know for how long," Merrill explained before getting up and approaching Dean, who still stared at the watch's insides. Upon gazing into the mysterious tool, he himself saw the magnificence. It felt like peering into time itself. The dozens of interlocking gears moved with hypnotical accuracy. The insides of the watch seemed to grow deeper the more he observed its mechanisms, as if the small glass was just a window to another world. Deep down, amidst all the churning metal, a whirling storm between fire and ice raged, igniting sparks of pure energy every time they collided. Even Merolias had to force himself to look away from the captivating sight. This instrument, he was certain, hadn't been made by humans. The Aztecs had probably discovered how it affected the human mind, and deemed it therefore too dangerous to be in mortal hands. He closed the golden lid and helped the young man to his feet. "Don't look inside for too long. Many a man has gone mad by observing the time vortex." "Why didn't time stop for us too?" Melissa asked, still cleaning her clothes from dust. "I don't know," Merolias replied, trying to comprehend the watch's abilities. "I didn't make it. It's something far more ancient than I've ever seen. We should get a rig on." Not eager to test how long time would stand still, they hurried through the tunnel and up the stairs. Yet the creatures didn't bother them again. But one never knew if there were any more surprises in those ruins. Back in the surface part of the temple, time passed as usual. It seemed the watch only affected a specific perimeter around itself. The sound of something moving made Merolias' muscles tense up once again. Couldn't this bloody place just let them go in peace? Looking towards the overgrown ceiling, he made out a long, slithering shape. Next to him, Dean tried to frantically open the watch's lid. Merolias just placed his hand on Dean's restless fingers. "It's a powerful artifact. It needs time before being used again." A strange hiss sounded loudly. "Do you still have enough energy for a massive spell?" Dean gave a single nod and put the clock back into the pocket on the inside of his coat. "Good." Merolias smiled at the thought of what would come next. "Draw your circle. I'll buy you time." Dean and Melissa made for the exit as Merolias turned to face the snake-like creature in the shadows. "Nate, you go with them." The demon continued giving instructions. "I'm a soldier." The man gave a crooked smile not unlike the one Merolias himself often wore. Gripping the demon's forearm, the man just looked at him with a warrior's glint in his eyes. "I ain't no use for a spell." "You might have forgotten that you can die," Merolias countered, smugly motioning at the not properly healed wound. "Let's just make a bet then. I get back my $10 if I survive." The ground suddenly shook when the creature fell down to the earth. "You're a bloody madman." Merolias laughed as he charged at the feathered serpent in front of them. Crimson eyes with slitted pupils followed his every step. Drawing his sword, he delivered a blow which resulted in nothing more than a scratch on the thick scales. With a roar, the serpent's head arrowed towards the demon, who jumped to the side. But the creature was quick. The moment the demon had landed on his feet, the serpent's head was already aiming again. The sound of a rifle rang as a bullet hit the entity's head. An angry hiss and the flick of the red tongue followed when the gleaming eyes darted to the man at the temple's entrance. "Come on, you snaky bastard!" Merolias just got up in time to see the American's frayed coat disappear down the stairs. Quetzalcoatl followed without hesitating, opening its colorful wings to dampen the impact. Jumping after the monstrous creature, Merolias turned into a falcon. He folded his wings tightly to gain speed to surpass the foe. Turning back into his human form, he grabbed Nathaniel on his scruff, dragging him downwards. The serpent tried to swallow them several times, whilst all three tumbled down the ruined side. Again and again the massive jaws snapped shut. In the last second before hitting the ground, Quetzalcoatl beat with its wings, missing the two men lying on the ground by mere inches with its body. Upon peeking at Dee, the demon saw that the serpent had found a new target. But the circle was already drawn, and before anyone could be harmed, it was imprisoned in a giant crystal made of sparkling eyes. Unable to move, Quetzalcoatl glittered in the sun. "Dean?" Melissa called to the semi-conscious man in her arms. "Come on, the ice won't hold long." Merolias swooped Dean from the ground as if he was nothing more than a cat. "Won't it come after us?" Nathaniel wondered, motioning with his head towards the frozen entity behind them. Merlice turned his attention towards it for a mere second. "Let's just make a dash for it, shall we?"